This is not a product review of the Adidas Prime X Strung. It's not a shoe that I own, it's not a shoe that I plan on buying, it's just not a shoe I'm interested in running in. But there is a ton of important things to talk about with this shoe that both confirm rumors that we've heard about Adidas running and some key technologies that give us a hint at what Adidas running will look like over the next 2 to 4 years. To start this story, we need to go all the way back to December 2022 to the running event that was held in Austin, Texas. Now, the running event is an event primarily for buyers of running merchandise, running shoes and running gear. It's a place for brands to show these buyers what's coming, what they should be looking to be ordering for the next year or two, and really understand all the technologies that are coming down the road for, running and running apparel. But they also do now invite influencers, running influencers to this event. And one shoe that was shown there was this shoe, the Prime X Strung. Now, this shoe was shown to, I think, some key influencers, but also, all the industry types saw it as well. And part of what goes on at this event is that, brand A will see what brand B is doing and so on and so forth. So this was the first time that not only influencers, but also other brands saw what Adidas was doing with the next version of the Prime X. And there's some very distinctive technologies in this shoe, really centered around that huge sort of 4-foot cutout area that was really independent along really where you're landing in the forefoot. Now, a lot of influencers covered this shoe and they said it was incredible and there's a ton of hype on this. Some of these images, even though they're embargoed, they did appear on Instagram, and people were kind of generally excited about this shoe. But also, I think this is, again, where industry players see what everyone else is doing. And I bet after this shoe was shown, Nike from Nike HQ sent some strongly worded letters to Adidas HQ that had probably the word cease and desist in them around this shoe. Because what Adidas fundamentally did with this shoe is they created an Alphafly. Now, I knew Adidas was going to eventually make their version of an Alphafly. That technology is just too seductive, really, for them not to try. Now, Adidas doesn't have anything like Air technology or AirPods, so they can't put a self-contained unit in the forefoot like Nike did with the Alphafly specifically. So they're going to have to mechanically do that sort of 4-foot independent, non-foamed piece in a different way. And that's exactly what they did in this shoe. And I think this one that they showed in December at the running event was really an extreme of that, because you can really see this free-floating puck of foam that is sandwiched between 2 layers of foam, and then we come to find out there's actually 2 carbon fiber plates in there. So mechanically, that puck of foam is essentially doing what the AirPods do in the Alphafly. And I know Nike saw that and they're like, no, you're not going to do this, because Nike is very aggressive protecting its patents, and they have patented everything around what they did in the Alphafly. Now, obviously this is different, but mechanically there's probably enough similarities that Nike felt they could go after Adidas and tell them, like, this is something you guys can't do, and we're going to defend this. And I guarantee that went on, because after the running event, we did see this shoe again, but we saw it in a very strange way, because there was another version of the Prime X2 that came out. So for the rest of the winter, into the spring, things were pretty quiet from Adidas. We didn't really hear much. There wasn't really a lot of rumors. We definitely didn't hear anything really about the Prime X2 Strung. We did see some images come up. We saw it appear. People talked about it in podcasts here and there, but fundamentally, we didn't see anything new until June of 2023. So a couple months ago, we saw, I believe, Patrick Lang run in this version of the Prime X2 Strung, which was a different version, at the Challenge Roth. I believe he won in these shoes. And yeah, we all of a sudden now saw a new version of the Prime X2 Strung about 6 to 7 months after we first saw it in December of 2022. Now, obviously, there are some key differences between these two shoes, and I think if you look at them side by side, you can really clearly see the difference. Gone is the free-floating puck that was in the original version that we saw in December of 2022, and it's been replaced now with still essentially the same technology, still that sort of Adidas Alphafly-like forefoot, but now the puck isn't free-floating. It's connected into the forefoot. And in fact, if you zoom in and look at these two images, you can see that the molding of the upper piece of foam and the bottom piece of the foam are fairly similar. Now, the image on the left is one of the launch images that was up on adidas.com that were oddly very low res. And then the image on the right is, I don't know where these images came from, but they're definitely official images from Adidas. So the low res one on the left, it's hard to really see, but you can see that the foam is the same. It's just now the puck is joined into the front of the shoe. I'm going to guess there's some sort of mechanical fastener in there. Think something like a jigsaw piece where that puck of foam connects into the upper piece of foam. Probably the upper piece of foam because that's what that little lip is that's coming in front of it. But essentially, I feel like this modification was done to, one, pacify Nike in that this gets around whatever patent Nike didn't like Adidas, getting close to with that sort of free floating puck. Now that it's connected into the rest of the midsole, that probably gets around it somehow. But I'm also going to guess that there's probably some durability problems with the one on the right, in that area where there's that gap essentially in the foam. There's no material there in the front, in the toe area. That is a high feel area of a shoe. That's where you're toeing off. You get a lot of feel in that area. And I bet toeing off in this shoe, even though there's a ton of foam and you don't get any ground feel in this shoe, you probably felt that gap and it probably didn't feel really good. And honestly, that's a high pressure area as well. There's a lot of forces in the shoe in that area as well. Twisting forces, torsional forces, a lot of different forces in there. So I bet they were having some durability problems in there as well, which is why we saw this release version that we saw in June, and then it was actually released in early August for about 24 hours on adidas.com and a few retail locations, doesn't have that free floating puck anymore. And I think it's probably a better shoe. It's at least probably a more stable shoe. And I don't think anyone would ever call the Prime X2 a stable shoe. But I think that probably solves some of the durability problems and appeased Nike that they could actually launch the shoe now. So while this shoe was up on adidas.com being sold, again, I think it was August 1st, literally for about 24 hours, I managed to grab a bunch of images and all the marketing copy that they had around the shoe because I was very curious. So this screen is actually the actual marketing copy that was up on adidas.com about the Prime X2. And I think there's a couple key things in here which I want to get into. One, Adidas has always been very clear about the Prime X2 being a shoe that doesn't have the constraints of world race regulations. Meaning, this is their what if shoe. What if there were no rules? What if there were no regulations? What if you've never actually seen a running shoe in 2023? What could we do with all the technology we have? So Adidas has been very clear the Prime X2 has always been that sort of shoe, and they restate that here. The second thing is, they're really going in heavy on this 3 layers of Lightstrike Pro. And they talk about this all new energy core. So the energy core is that puck of foam that's in the forefoot between the 2 layers of Lightstrike Pro. But we now know it's Lightstrike Pro. It's not another foam. But we have heard that Adidas is possibly working on a softer Lightstrike Pro. And I'll get to where we've heard that. But this basically confirms that to me, is that we have 2 layers of traditional Lightstrike Pro, the Lightstrike Pro we've known, the Lightstrike Pro we've seen in, the Adios 8, the Boston 12, that Lightstrike Pro we know. And then that energy core is probably the newer, softer Lightstrike Pro. Now, the other thing that is of note here is they actually confirm 2 carbon-infused plate system. There's a bunch of important things there. Plates, not rods, and 2. Now, mechanically, they need those 2 plates to, create that unit, the AirPod-like unit in the forefoot. But also, this is a big deal. There are no rods in this shoe. Rods have been a marquee Adidas technology, since the Adios Pro, the original Adios Pro. So 3 or 4 years we've been living with rods. There's no rods in this shoe. I think that's very telling for where Adidas is headed. So let's look at this shoe. What is actually going on in this shoe? Now, Adidas hasn't released any sort of schematics. There's been no cutaways of this shoe. There are people that actually bought this shoe when it was on adidas.com, and there are some early reviews of this shoe. They're a bit mixed if you're interested in them, but you can find them out there on the internet. But no one's cut one in half. No one actually knows what's going on inside this shoe. But I'm going to take a guess that the carbon plates in this shoe are in one of three configurations. Now, the first one would be this one. I think this is the most likely, where you have a fairly traditional plate that's close to the foot, starts in the heel, goes to the toe. And then there's a second plate that starts somewhere in the back of the midfoot or, the heel even, dips under low to the ground, comes back up into the toe spring and either joins through a bond or is just mechanically there in the foam in the front under the toe off area of the forefoot. And then they sandwich that energy core or that puck of lighter, softer Lightstrike Pro foam. Another way this shoe could be built is they have, again, a heel to toe plate that's very reminiscent of, say, a Vaporfly plate where it starts in the heel, dips in the midfoot, comes very close to the ground, and goes up into the toe spring. And then there's a secondary plate on top of that. And then again, the energy core is sandwiched in between them. I don't think this is pretty likely because this, I think, would create a lot of durability problems. And the forefoot of this shoe is going to feel very mushy, especially as that plate fatigues and wears, the upper plate. So I don't know if this is likely. The third option, though, is really this, where there could be a fully self-contained two carbon plate system, meaning there's an upper plate, which you can see dips in the forefoot, comes to about the heel, maybe the midfoot, and then there's a plate below that. Now, in the toe area, these two plates could be bonded, or they could even be molded as one plate, and then the energy core, that puck of foam, could be pressed in there. And then in the back towards the midfoot or the heel, the two plates could be bonded again to create sort of a self-contained unit that's embedded in all of that foam. Now, this, I think, could be very likely, and that mechanically would make a very sound sort of, again, self-contained AirPod-like unit. So this one could be likely, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to go with this one because I think this one mechanically and run-wise makes the most sense, and it gives them the most ability to do a lot more stuff beyond the Prime X with carbon plates. Now, this is where another thing that we've heard around this softer Lightstrike Pro foam that we've heard in a few places now becomes important. Because again, back at the running event in December 2022, there was an Adios Pro 4 model shown there. Now, at the time, people sort of looked at it and they thought it just looked like a slightly modified Adios Pro 3. And lately, in the past few weeks, we've also seen images appear again of a Adios Pro 4 that looks like a slightly modified Adios Pro 3 that has basically a cleaned up upper, a slightly different upper. But we know that that wasn't where Adidas was going with the Adios Pro 4 development. There was a very different Adios Pro 4 that was being developed. And the feedback that we heard that the elite athletes didn't like it because they didn't like the foam. Specifically, that's what I remember hearing is the elite athletes and the people that were testing the shoe didn't like the foam in the Adios Pro 4. And then Adidas has also come out and confirmed that they stopped development on that version of the Adios Pro 4 because the shoe wasn't meeting their durability requirements. Now that sort of confirms a bunch of stuff for me. Now, an elite or a pro athlete, as far as durability of a racing shoe, and again, the Adios Pro is a marathon racing shoe. An elite or pro athlete, they don't care about durability. They care that that shoe makes it through the distance. For the marathon, it's 26.2 miles. But if that shoe self-combusted at 27 miles, they wouldn't care. As long as it performed for the race, for the actual distance, they're fine. That's what they want. So durability over getting, multiple races out of a shoe, they don't care about that. What I guess, and I'm inferring this because I don't have any insider knowledge here, but I'm inferring this is the problem they're having, is that Adidas was putting a very a much softer and very different Lightstrike Pro in the original version of the Adios Pro 4, but it was causing durability problems in the sense that they probably were breaking the rods in the shoe, because the carbon rods that Adidas uses in the Adizero shoes are very specific to the materials and the technologies that Adidas have. In that, Lightstrike Pro is a very dense and fairly firm foam, and the rods, which are actually probably very fragile, need the rigidity that Lightstrike Pro, the firmer Lightstrike Pro, gives them around them to actually support them and make sure they don't snap. Because if you took the Adidas rods and put them in Zoom X, you would have two problems. I think instantly within 10 to 15K, most people would probably break at least one rod. And then two, the softer foam being much more compressive and the rods being much thicker than a carbon plate, they're round too, you're going to start to feel the rods under your feet and they're going to start to like dig into your foot, which doesn't feel great. But from a durability standpoint, if you have a lighter Lightstrike Pro and you have those rods in it, they're going to snap. And I bet that's the durability problem they were running into, and I bet that's why the elites didn't like the foam. So they totally scrapped that shoe, and then they've had sort of a scramble of on again, off again. Is it going to be Adios Pro 4 or not? Now, where this is, again, relevant to the Prime X2 Strung is that energy core, I'm going to guess, is that softer Lightstrike Pro that Adidas has been developing. Probably it is the foam that was in the original prototype of the Adios Pro 4. Now, Adidas moving to carbon plates is also really telling because, again, the Prime X is a development platform. It's not a serious shoe that Adidas is ever going to put a lot of marketing behind because it's nothing that their elite athletes can race in because it's not legal. It's too high. It's got too many plates in it now. It's not a race legal shoe. So their elites probably don't really care about that shoe. Also now Ironman has adopted, the same regulations that, World Athletics has for shoe compatibility. So the Prime X is no longer legal for World Triathlon or Ironman events. So the shoe just is nothing that Adidas will ever really promote or really get behind because it's nothing that anyone can race in. But it is a big development platform for them. And I think by releasing it as a consumer model, they're going to get a ton of data. They get a ton of feedback. They get a ton of wear testing. More wear testing in the Prime X2 Strung than they could ever do with their wear testing program. So again, as a development platform, Adidas is really, they want this shoe out there. They want runners running in it. They want all the feedback and all the problems that will come from it because they want to integrate what they're learning and the technologies from the Prime X2 or the Prime X platform into their race legal shoes, meaning the Adios Pro series. So this is where I think it's really interesting for the future of the Adizero line. Does this mean that we are going to see drastically different Adios Pros in the next 2 to 4 years? I kind of think it does. So Adidas is working on carbon plates again, and they've never really had carbon plates. They did have the Adizero Pro before they had the Adios Pro. That shoe was a disaster. I've talked about it on this channel before. No one remembers that shoe fondly, but they did have a carbon plate in it, and it was a nightmare. So Adidas needs to sort of get back up to speed with carbon plates. Seems like they're doing that in the Prime X2 Strung. Cool. Also, they probably want to go to a softer, more resilient foam, if you will. Even though Lightstrike Pro is very resilient, I bet they are getting a lot of asks from their elite athletes to have something that's a little softer, a little bit less demanding on the legs. So I bet they're working on a softer foam. So that means in the Adios Pro 5, 6, 7, we could see a much softer Lightstrike Pro, or whatever Adidas calls this new foam. Maybe it's not Lightstrike Pro anymore, maybe it's something else. We could see a softer foam in there with a carbon plate again. Very traditional to what carbon plated shoes are right now, where you have stack of foam on the top, plate, stack of foam on the bottom. We could see that. What I think is probably more likely is Adidas is going to find a way to make the technology of that 4-foot pod energy core system that is in the Prime X2 Strung. They're going to try to figure out a way of making that race legal for the Adios Pro, 5, 6, 7. So you're going to need a carbon plate to do that. Now, they obviously can't put 2 layers of carbon plates in there, so they're going to have to figure out a way of making that work with one carbon plate and maybe some sort of energy core puck that's in the 4-foot, and then there's, Lightstrike Pro around it somehow. Kind of what they do in the SL, where there's that puck of foam encased in Lightstrike foam. I don't think it'll be exactly that, but Adidas is going to try to figure out how to make that technology from the Prime X2 Strung race legal, and it's going to end up in the Adios Pro series at some point. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you like this type of content, consider subscribing because you'll see more content like this pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.